Science is all around us, right? Like it explains how the universe works, how we are alive, everything. And so we encounter it every day.
It's truly interdisciplinary. Science can kind of fall within any of the disciplines as long as it's carefully crafted to have students use what they're learning in science and the scientific method to kind of question what's going on in any of the other disciplines and apply their scientific thinking in those spaces.
Behind me, you can see we have this sphere. Not quite spherical, but you get the idea. All over the course of last year, we did a Scales of the Universe project that involved the entire school, all 3 divisions. Each grade or course was assigned a different scale of the universe to kind of show how big and small things are. We start with, kindergartners who compared the size of this Hoberman sphere that's hanging to their own size. And it started to get more and more abstract as we went through to some of the older students.
It is really important to me that students really foster that asking of questions, being curious about the world, like that's really science. And so I want them to do science. So by bringing in these big concepts like the solar system, like using models, and why do we use so, that we go ahead and give them that learning.
It really helps them to see how small we are in the universe and also help them to see how complex our body and life is. Our lower school science class, we intentionally design the activities for students to explore, make observations, and identify the patterns themselves before we formally introduce the science concept. I'm hoping that those moments will help them to create a sense of wonder.
When you think about life in like a body or someone who is sick, that's never like just a chemistry thing or just a biology thing. Dwight has a vision for integrated biology and chemistry, and that is just something that fascinates me as a professional, but I also think it makes it so much easier to make it relatable to the students.
So right now the students are working on their Anatomy of a Human project, and on this project they're taking characters that they learned in the book that they've been reading in their English classes, and they're applying the science that they've learned in their science classes regarding cells and systems and environmental factors and impacts for those systems, and how they can place those environmental factors that they've noticed in the book onto the actual human body organ systems of those characters, right? And they're able to kind of look and infer those details and make predictions based on what they've learned in science class as to how the bodies of those English characters would be impacted.
Sometimes something that a student starts learning about in 1st grade, they revisit those concepts again in 5th grade, and then they revisit it again in 8th grade, and then again in 10th grade, right? And so every time they come back to it, because students are developing in their understanding, they're building more context, they're able to apply more math to it, they're able to apply more specific language and diagrams. Every time they revisit it, they deepen their understanding and they are able to make more and more connections to different kinds of things.
I also teach a really cool chemistry class, which I love to teach, and it's called acid-base chemistry. One of our topics is the chemistry of acids and bases in cooking and food preparation. We make kombucha. Kombucha is made by fermentation, and fermentation always produces some ethanol, some alcohol, and the students got to measure the ethanol percentage in their own kombucha, but all the percentages were low enough that we could have a little kombucha party. I mean, that was so much fun.
We're really empowering students to learn how to question things and how to experiment to break out of their typical understandings of what things are.
So we really want to make sure that students see themselves reflected in the curriculum and also see whatever they are interested in connecting to science. So some of them are going to go on to become scientists and engineers and things like, but others are going to be lawyers, and others are going to be writers, and others are going to be artists. But all of them are still responsible for making sure that we are caring for our planet, for understanding the impact of their actions, and so they can see how all of that sort of plays out.